So the other day I posted a quick tip about using your center focus point in low light, finding an area of high contrast, focusing on that, and then recomposing. I had a great question underneath that video from Big Gulp 62 that says, I see. But if I focus on a high contrast area and recompose, will that point I want in focus, let's say eyes on a face, will they still be sharp? If not, where not the originating contrast point? I think it's a little weird at the end there, but I understand what you're saying. So the question is basically, if you have to focus on a collar and then you recompose, is everything going to still be in sharp focus? That's a great question, and the answer is only maybe. Let's take a look. So really fancy graphics here. We got our photographer holding with invisible hands his little camera. And let's say that there is your field of view. Let's say we're using a 51.8. Here's your field of view, and at 5.6, the gray area represents the area that's in focus. We're going to keep this really general, really short, really simple, and we're not going to talk about how big an area that actually is until we get into the more specifics. Now let's say you're shooting at f1.8. Notice how that gray area gets much smaller. Let's look real quick again at the 5.6, 1.8. Your area is quite narrow. We'll talk specifically in a minute. So here are your three cute kids, orange, green, and blue. And orange or green's even got a little bit of hair. So adorable. Taking a picture straight on, fine. Their eyes are all in focus. That's great. But let's say that you have to focus and then you recompose. Notice that just a little bit of shifting and your poor orange kid is now out of the area of focus. And they're going to be a little bit soft. When you're shooting at that 1.8, let's say that those kids are 6 feet away from you. At 1.8, that area of focus is only 3.5 inches wide. That is not much. Go find your ruler, look at that, and we're talking 6 feet away. If you're much closer than that, the closer you are to your subjects, the smaller that area of focus gets until you're down underneath an inch. And that's at 1.8. If you have a lens, if you're lucky enough to have a lens that shoots at 1.4 or 1.2, we're talking razor thin area of focus. So the answer to Big Gulp was that is something that you have to watch for in recomposing. If you're moving side to side like this, you know, that is going to be fine, but it's those angle changes that you need to watch out for when you're recomposing. But, you know, it's still something that will definitely help you focus in lower light, finding that area of contrast, using that center point. Also, a couple of questions in the last day or two about external flashes. I've mentioned this in another video. I just want to mention it again. If you have an external flash, stick it on your camera. Turn that head reversed and angled up about, what's that, 45 degrees or so. Notice that it's not directly behind. And use it. One of the really cool things, then it's going to bounce off the walls and fill the room with light. It's going to look good. One of the really cool things is that you don't have to change your exposure necessarily when using an external flash. The flash changes its output. It's very, unless if you have it on ETTL. It's one of those things that blows my mind a little bit. When you start to take a picture, when you take a picture, the flash fires off an invisible, it's not invisible, but it happens, you know, basically at the same time as the real flash, a pre-flash that is kind of a testing flash. The camera then senses how much light has entered into the lens and then adjusts the flash output accordingly, and when you take the picture, it flashes. It all happens instantaneously, simultaneously basically, and unbeknownst to you, but that's what's happening. So the flash in ETTL is automatically adjusting its output, and you don't need to worry about that. Set your exposure the way you want based on things like make sure that it's fast enough that you're not going to get blur, slower shutter speed, the aperture you want to make sure everything is in focus, especially if you have to recompose the focus, and the ISO. You know, you do have to usually bump the ISO a little bit higher than if you're shooting outside in broad daylight because the flash is powerful, but it's not that powerful, especially when you start bouncing it off the walls and you're asking it to fill the room. So, kind of random tips there. One, watching your recomposing to make sure you're keeping your subjects in focus, and two, using an external flash. If there's one thing that can really increase the success of your indoor pictures, it is an external flash, and using that external flash in a bounce type way. So I hope this was helpful. Remember, I got lots more of these videos coming. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and if you haven't already, come on over to the Facebook page and give that a like. We're building up a great community of folks there, and I really enjoy the questions and the comments and the interaction that is happening there. Thanks so much for watching.